Hello. It's 6:30, which means the meeting has almost started. Once I get a motion to approve the agenda, right there. Perfect. And a second over there that I just heard. Camera. Okay. Well, my name's Grace. I talked to some of you. I'm a Ward 2 Planning Committee member. I already told you about the agenda, so we'll move right along to public forum. If you don't know what that is, it's a time when anyone can bring anything up. We just ask that you keep it under 2 minutes. Obviously, keep it appropriate, please. Anyone want to say anything, public forum? Or over there?
He told me to stand up. Traffic told me I had to stand up here. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to let people know about a fundraiser at the Fletcher Free Library. It's also a fun event. It's mini golf, and it's in the library. So it'll be up in the stacks and all around the floors. And I was telling people, we started planning this for April 2020, and we were all ready to go, and then you know what happened. So we're bringing it back now. We're trying again, and so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There's more information, and you can buy tickets online. So there's a fundraiser on Friday night with drinks and nibbles, and then on Saturday the tickets are much less expensive, and you can buy family groups, and we are selling tickets through 7 days tickets, and they're timed. You don't have to show up exactly at your time, but that way, like 100 people won't show up and have to wait 2 hours. So you can find information on the library's website, and we hope you will all come.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Trev Fryer, Ward 2. Here to advertise the Repair Cafe. It's once a month. Sounds like I don't even need to say anything else. Everyone already knows what it is. It's the third Saturday. We repair anything you can carry in for free, or we'll help you fix it. So clothes, bicycles, computers, furniture, whatever you got. We're at 12 North Street, so just sort of down there. Every third Saturday, hosted by Laboratory B. What other details am I missing? That's it. It's great. It's a great time. Oh yeah, 11 to 3. Not this Saturday, the next Saturday.
Hello. Oh, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Hill-Goyle. I'm a sociology professor at the University of Vermont. I'm running for Vermont State Senate in Chittenden Central for the August 11th primary. I just want to speak for just a few moments about what happened last night at Dorset Street. We had hundreds of Vermonters come out to stand in solidarity with an immigrant family that was under threat by ICE. And we were peaceful, we were singing, we were joyful, and the violence began at 5:30 p.m. ICE, alongside state and local police, collaborated to break up that protest, to go into that home, and to take an immigrant family in and bring them into custody. It was completely unnecessary. If ICE did not have the cooperation of our Burlington and South Burlington and state police, they would not have been able to execute that raid. It is unacceptable. Every single person who ordered those police to come to that scene must be held accountable. That includes the Burlington Police, that includes the South Burlington Police, and that includes our state police. We have laws in this state that prevent our local police from interfering and engaging in immigration enforcement. We should follow those laws. We've got to hold those people accountable. I have called publicly and for many, many years for the abolition and prosecution of ICE. It's time to draw a line in the sand. At Vermont, we must fight for all of our neighbors, no matter where they come from, no matter who they are, no matter who they love, because that's who we are as a people. And what we saw yesterday of tear gassing innocent protesters, of flash grenades, of macing of our friends and our neighbors being thrown violently to the ground, that is not who we are as a people. And so we should call on every one of our elected officials to get answers, to have an independent investigation, and to make sure this violence against our own people never happens again. So I hope you'll join me in the coming weeks and months ahead to make sure that we keep everybody, all of our neighbors, safe right here in this beautiful, beautiful state. Thank you.
Yes to all of that. And if you're on the same thread of repair and reuse, come to the Reuse-a-Palooza. It's a repair reuse conference, first one ever in Vermont. We formed the Vermont Reuse, Reduce, and Repair Network. If you want to be part of it, come talk to me. Come to the conference. Come to the conference. It's April 9th. It's a Thursday. Mark your calendar. It goes all day, so 8 to 4. I think it's like $20 to get in, but that $20 includes a really good lunch and breakfast. It's worth it, I promise. There's going to be so many things. A repair cafe will be there. There will be an item swap, like a just drop and swap. There are going to be lots of cool keynote guest speakers, like celebrities in the repair reuse field. It's going to be awesome, so come on to Reuse-a-Palooza, April 9th, 8 to 4, in Randolph. The Vermont State University is in Randolph, yeah. And you can search it on Google. Vermont DEC has it on their webpage.
Hi. I want to add to what this gentleman said. I'm agreeing with you about 90%, and I'm there all the way. I'm uncomfortable about painting all of the police flavors with a broad brush. I spent last night with a couple people who were central at different times of day to the demonstration and to aiding the family that was attacked. And I heard several different versions of what the police were like. Now, they may have changed during the day, but for example, one of the people I talked to, who was one of the leaders and in the middle of things, said she was thanking the South Burlington police earlier in the day for their demeanor. So, without belaboring the point, and I wasn't there, so I'm at risk for believing everything that anybody I like says, if they sound reasonable or feel the way I feel. So this is me just saying, you know, be careful about painting all the police people with the same broad brush. Thank you for listening.
Hi, everyone. Mila Grant, Central District City Councilor. There isn't like a council version for the meeting tonight, so I just wanted to say a few things. The mayor has put out a press release this afternoon, late this afternoon. We as Progressives Caucus are currently finalizing one right now that we'll have posted up on social media. If you follow the city party or any one of us, you'll be able to see it. I will say there's no question in anyone's minds that what we witnessed was really a test for our community. On one hand, we knew it was coming. We already had people being taken in our community, but the call went out fast enough that people got to the location. We know, and it was talked about by, I do recommend everyone watch the police press conference that they did last night. I think it's very important. You might not like everything they say, you might not like or agree with what they say, but what was important to me is they stated and admitted that what happened that started all of this off by ICE was not okay. We have a chase that started, and how many of us have seen stories from other municipalities across the country where chase go bad? The chase went bad. It's 7:45, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's the morning commute. It's an area where children are being dropped off to school. None of that was taken into consideration. So out the gate, this was a travesty. And local law enforcement knew that. One of the questions that I will be asking, and I did have, I had a pre-scheduled meeting with Chief Burke to talk about some community safety issues, but you can imagine my original agenda went out the window, and we were talking about this because we've tried to make strides in improving the relationship between police officers in our community, and this sets it back. We have to have, and what will be done, there will be a review of the use of force. It's not going to be overnight. It's definitely not going to be as fast as we would like. Personally, I was concerned once the criminal warrant became available. My question is, who in the law enforcement that was there actually read the warrant? Who confirmed who was on the criminal warrant? Who confirmed that the people being taken out of the house were on that warrant? It seemed to me, and this is based on the footage, but this is why we need to review their body cam, etc., during an investigation with the use of force that was used, that it went from being a crowd protection, right, because it was a mutual aid request, which is common. There was nothing out of the ordinary for BPD to be called to South Burlington. Mutual aid requests between the departments does happen. And due to the size of the crowd, I can understand why it happened. But at some point, it turned to escorting. And that's a question that we need. There's a lot more questions. I don't want to take a lot of time, but there's a lot of questions. We're asking those questions. We will have a statement out, and we'll continue to look at this. My greatest concern is, okay, what if this happens tomorrow? What are we going to do differently? That's a question that really needs to be answered now, and I can tell you that's one thing I have been emailing people to say, what happened, it went south in some respects. How do we educate the community? How do we educate our officers? Which officers, clearly identify which officers. I don't think we should be throwing around officers' names because we already have situations where there's been some misinformation. Doesn't change the fact that this was a horrific scene. This is already being shared nationally. Like, for instance, before coming in, I saw that some of the footage of what happened here was just shared by the Boston Globe. So that's going to affect how people feel about Burlington. Are people going to want to come visit Burlington if they think we have, issues with active ICE removal? And I will leave it there. It's definitely something we can continue to have a longer conversation about, and we should.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Jess Hyman. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a Ward 2 resident right around the corner. I made a brief announcement during dinner about Fair Housing Month, but I wanted to give a little more information because it's really important. So April is Fair Housing Month, and it celebrates the 1968 passage of the Fair Housing Act. And what that did is it enshrined into law essential protections to make sure that everyone has access to a safe place to call home and choice in that home. And so that means that it's illegal to discriminate against anyone based on the color of their skin, where they're from, their their gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, whether they receive public assistance or not, and a whole lot of other protections. And so this is enshrined into federal law and also in Vermont law as well. And the Fair Housing Act says that it's illegal to discriminate, and it also says that we all have the obligation to not just not discriminate, but to take active measures to make sure that we can redress the historical wrongs of discrimination and harassment and segregation. So in April, the Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity, where that's my day job, my regular hat, and a bunch of other arts and housing and community partners from around the state have a whole month-long series of events. So there are webinars, there's Know Your Rights workshops, art workshops, an exhibit at City Hall. On April 1st, it's Fair Housing Awareness Day at the State House, organized by the Vermont Human Rights Commission in partnership with some other groups. On April 3rd is a big fun event at Main Street Landing, which will have storytelling and food and drink and ways to connect with each other and get creative. If you'd like to be a storyteller, you can check out the website and sign up. If you go to fairhousingmonthvt.org, you can see the whole schedule of events, and we really encourage you to join us because we need to stand up for everyone's rights to have safe, affordable, places to call home free from discrimination. So thank you very much.
Oh, you ahead of me. Hi, I'm Robert. I just wanted to announce that once a month at City Hall, they have the Homeless Alliance steering committee meetings, and it's held every first Thursday of the month, and it's open to anyone that would like to go. It's not just for the homeless people. It's for anyone who's interested. And if you stay for the whole meeting, you get a free gift card. So, like I said, it's not just for the homeless, but it can be, for anyone who lives in the Burlington area. So you can get a hold of me. You can get a hold of Sarah Russell, who works for CBOYO, and also Taylor Tebow, who works for Champlain Housing. So, yeah.
Hello, I'm Megan Humphrey, and I just want to acknowledge, I think the elephant in the room tonight is definitely what happened yesterday. And I agree that we need to have a full investigation, get all the information out, and I hope everyone also does tune into the press conference that was last night. Both South Burlington and Burlington chiefs of police were very upset about it. And of course, they are not in the loop for when and where ICE decides whatever they're going to do. And that's a huge concern. So the reason South Burlington got involved was because of the car accident. And then they wanted to maintain presence there and called in Burlington so that protesters were safe and allowed to have free speech. So I just wanted to bring that up. And it will be interesting to see how it all sugars out. The other thing is, I just want to say thank you very, very much to everyone who donated tonight, because we're helping Carol and Bob, and they've been huge, delightful people in our community, and we just really appreciate them, and now it's time for us to help them. So thank you very much for your donations.
Hi, my name's Kason. I'm on the Ward 2 NPA Steering Committee, but I'm also the director of the Peace and Justice Center. I was at Dorset Street all day yesterday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. I just want to say that I'm really shaken up, so it's hard for me to talk about it. But the warrant, the judicial warrant that ICE supposedly obtained had nothing to do with anyone who they actually took out of the house. I just want that to be widely known, that the people that they arrested were completely like random people as far as the judicial system goes. They were not on the warrant. There was no reason for ICE to be there at all. and also that the Vermont State Police, and as far as I could see, the local police departments were completely protecting ICE. They were not there to protect us. They were facing us. They were not facing ICE. They weren't impeding ICE. I mean, essentially, ICE kidnapped innocent people, random people. They weren't on the warrant. There was no reason for the Vermont State Police to be there, and they just facilitated a kidnapping. That's what it looked like to me. That's what it looked like to everybody, every protester that was there. And if the Vermont State Police and the police departments want us to believe that they're there to protect us, then they should turn around and face ICE. Don't face us. Please call Phil Scott and tell him to stop sending the Vermont State Police wherever DHS wants them to go, because clearly they're lying about their warrants, they're lying about their justifications for breaking into houses. There was no reason for the Vermont State Police to be there. The warrant was completely nonsense. They just arrested 3 random people. That's what I wanted to say.
Hi everyone. Whoa. I'm Ansley. I live in Ward 2. I just want to second things that Kaysen said. I was also at Dorset Street yesterday and just wanted to give like a PSA. If you were not there and are trying to understand what went down and why, from what I've seen, the migrant justice press release is the most accurate account of what happened, because I know there are a lot of things out on the internet based on like which news source and at what time they were there and what angle they were getting. There's a lot on the internet that is like totally inaccurate based on that, like there was confusion the entire day, and only now today we know that there was not a warrant for any of the 3 people who were arrested. So if you're looking for an accurate account, I would encourage you to find that. And also like find people who are actually there and hear their stories, because I think it's quickly getting like distributed through the grapevine, and there are so many details that can easily get really confused. So just try to do a good job of like finding what actually happened before distilling the information. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. That pretty much concludes our public forum. So next, we're going to do a new NPA initiative, which will be top 5 things happening around Burlington. It's not necessarily always going to be positive. One of them was going to be the unfortunate ICE activity that we all just talked about, but I think that was well covered. Thank you, especially for the first-hand accounts, really important. The rest of the stuff is actually a little bit more positive, which, not to take away from any of that very important stuff, but it's also, So first thing, Boves, the ugly building on Pearl Street that has been deemed so dangerous that the fire department cannot even go in case of emergencies, will soon, hopefully, be a 6-story 25-unit affordable housing. Yeah. The Boves themselves are doing it, so do I have complete faith? I don't know. Okay, but that's happening, hopefully. Number 2, the Bridges Center. Some of you may have heard of it. It's a new homeless shelter that will be also on Pearl Street. I don't know the building that it's in. It's like the building, what? But yep, the intersection of Pearl and Winooski by 3 Needs, by the OP, like if you're looking like that. That is going to be, I believe, kind of like a medium barrier, so not completely sober homeless shelter. It's going to have 14 beds. Obviously, it's, kind of a drop in the bucket, but it definitely is something. It's definitely a step in the right direction. So that will be very exciting. I think it actually opens up this week. They're taking referrals. Everything on the ballots passed. All the incumbents got in, and all the budgets passed. So that's good. So that's that. Next, the structure discussion. Some of you may have talked to me or Lauren who is on the NPA Planning Committee, and get my outline here. Basically, as you might have kind of gleaned, we're trying to figure out how to help people stay at these meetings, because as you can see, a lot of important stuff is talked about. Oh, boo them, boo them, boo. Just kidding. Don't worry, I'll wait. Yeah, horrible. Edit that out. Just kidding. Oh my gosh. Yes. Just a joke. Just a joke. Good sticking up for your community, everyone. But we do want more people to stay, and we're trying not to make it shame-based. We're trying to just do what we can to help people stay. And while we can't solve, childcare, or, that you have to get up really early for jobs, totally understandable. Even if, it's just busy for some people, and sometimes you just can't stay. Again, before my behavior was a joke. I understand people have things going on in their lives. But we do want to do whatever we can to keep you here if we can. We have a budget. If there's ever anything that you're like, this would help me stay, this would help my attention span. I will say at our last NPA, let me start with, what is the steering committee? Some of you might have remembered we had elections. The steering committee is me, Grace, Lauren, Mark, Charlie, over there, and Nora, who isn't here today, and Kason! And we volunteer to plan these meetings, to plan the agenda, to contact people, to take requests for people who want to present here. We do that all on a volunteer basis. We coordinate, paying for, unfortunately the donations do not cover the whole meal. So we put some of our budget toward the meal. As you may have remember, you voted on that. So that's kind of a taste of what we do. And our newest thing is, how do we get more people to stay here? So where I was before, we have shortened the meetings. They used to be at 8:30. I think that was too long. I was getting tired. Now today it's going to end at 7:55. We're going to try for 8, but we gave 5 minutes of cushion time. We're also trying a new initiative where we shorten presentations. Sometimes we have a 40-minute presentation, and sometimes that's warranted, like when the mayor came in and had to go through the whole city budget. You can't do that in 20 minutes. But for the most part, we're trying to shorten presentations to help people kind of stay engaged and not have their eyes glaze over. But we are, as I was doing in the beginning of the meeting, we're taking requests and ideas on how to help this issue that we have. Today we have a pretty good turnout, actually. Why come to the community meetings? I know all of you do believe these are important, but in case you're kind of new to it, or you're kind of like, I don't have it in me today, to persuade you, we talk about important things. We talk about community safety issues. We talk about just things that are going on, maybe on your street, construction, new housing, so they can be really positive sometimes. Let's see. With that being said, I will cut it off there. I will just say we're going to try to be more active on our Instagram. We have a website where you can make requests on presentations you want to see, just things you want to know about, and we can try to coordinate that for you. So yeah, we'll move right along to the next agenda item, which we only have 2 presentations after me, and the next one is about to begin. I think, yeah, and then we have the door prize. In case you didn't know about that, if you stayed till the end, you could get a prize. So next we have Jody from the Burlington Window Dressers. Jody, do you want to come up?
So my name's Jody Woos. I'm a Ward 2 resident, and I want to talk to you tonight about window dressers. There's an enormous amount of horrible stuff happening in the world, and fortunately, window dressers is one of the wonderful things. It's a no-brainer for me to be involved with it, and I want to tell you a bit about it. The Window Dressers organization is in Maine. It was founded over 20 years ago and has expanded from Maine to New Hampshire and Vermont. Burlington has its own chapter of window dressers, and we are getting ready for our 6th build. The idea of window inserts, and I brought mine from home, that anybody's welcome to come and take a look at. A window insert is simply a wooden frame. It's covered on both sides with shrink wrap polyolefin. It has a foam gasket, open cell foam gasket around it, and they're built to friction fit inside your window. And that means that there's no nails, there's no glue, there's no tape. It just fits securely inside the window. And that means that renters can put them in. You don't need your landlord's permission. They're awesome for homeowners as well. Next slide. What do? Well, we have a comparison here of the improvement in comfort levels and reduction in your fuel bills. Typically windows are crappy. Even if you have special amazing windows, they are the worst thing in your house in terms of leakages. They typically account for 20 to 50% of home heat loss. And if any of you have tried to price replacing windows, they're fabulously expensive. $500 is like the minimum, and they go up from there. What inserts do is, and I'll just hold this up, they create a layer of air between the window and the insert, and then there's another layer of air between the 2 layers of plastic. And so you have quite a bit of protection against leaks, and the trapped air makes you much, much more comfortable. Okay, let's go next slide. How do we make them? Every fall, there's a community build. So the people who sign up to get a window insert are asked to contribute a 4-hour shift to the community build. We have a 5-day build. We've done it in a variety of places around the community. We did it once at Rock Point, once at Echo, once at Generator. Last year we were at the U-Mall. We're looking for a place this year, if anybody knows of a place we might be. So we're there for 5 days, and we put them together. What we can see here are the different stages. This is me and my husband. We love to build the frames, the wooden frames that go around. Up top are people doing the shrink wrap. This is Kate DeRocher, who's also in our community. She's one of our coordinators. This is putting foam around the outside. Up here, they're screwing in the crosspiece, and here they're putting the final touches on it. Next slide. Who participates? Well, everybody who gets windows participates, but we have volunteers who come back year after year after year because... volunteers come back year after year because it's an enormously fun event. You get to spend time with your neighbors, and it's a lot of fun. We do a potluck in the middle of the day. Homeowners, renters, we have a number of landlords who participated in it, and we also want people to know that 38% of the Vermont participants have paid a reduced rate. This size window insert costs about $40. Depends on the size. And if we'll go to the next slide, we can talk a bit more about where we are and what the process is. So you can see Vermont last year had 23 different communities that had window builds. Here in Burlington, we do between 2 and 250 builds, window inserts each year. So over the 5-year period, we've done well over 1,000 window inserts. And you can see the likely impact all through New England. Next slide. If you're interested in talking about getting window inserts for your house, this is our QR code. I also have some brochures, which you're welcome to take. Next slide. What are the steps? First, you have to fill out the web form, and basically that just tells us how to contact you and what you're interested in. Once you've done that, we will be in touch with you, and we send out a team that actually measures each of the windows that you're interested in building a window insert for. So every window is custom measured and custom built, so they're really guaranteed to fit your particular situation. At your appointment, we answer a lot of questions. So the folks that come out will talk with you about not only your window and its structure and what kind of improvement you could expect, but also about financing, about the availability of support. And essentially what they'll say is, if you can't afford a $40 window, can you give me a sense of what you can afford? We don't do any kind of income checks. We just go based on what people tell us about their situation. Efficiency Vermont also has a DIY rebate every year, so you can get $100 back from them just by saying, I had 3 windows built through window dressers, because they know about our program. So we have some families who build 3 a year. And that way they are able to benefit from the rebate and also having a home that is better insulated, more comfortable, and isn't blowing heat right out into the environment. We also ask you to sign up for your volunteer. If you aren't able to come, you aren't able to come. There are other ways to contribute. Some people bring a meal for everyone, for example. So there are lots of ways to participate, even if you aren't able to come to one of the shifts. The shifts are from Friday through Tuesday. So the weekends are obviously the most popular, and so we get a lot of people are able to participate in that way. What's the final step? You participate in the build, and then you take your window inserts home and install them. As I said, it's a total no-brainer. We have people from all over the Old North End who've participated and who have put window inserts in their home. My husband and I got ours in the first build, so nearly 6 years ago. This is one of them, and I'm careful with it. But it's really been remarkable for me. I live on Oak Street, which is an incredibly crazy busy street in the morning and in the evening. And the window inserts in the front of my front windows have helped not only with heat, but also with noise. So if you're on a busy street in the community, they're really helpful. Questions?
Hi there, I'm Carol. I live on Myrtle Street. I have a particularly leaky front door.
Say again?
Is it possible to make inserts for a door?
Not if you expect to open and close the door.
No, I don't open and close the door in the winter at all. I don't use that door.
Yeah, it's possible. And sometimes we've had very large windows, for example, and we built 2 inserts that go one on top of the other. Yeah. So it's certainly possible as long as it has a frame that's window-like, because it has to friction fit right inside.
I think it would work.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, great.
Do you take them out in the summer?
You can, because they're friction fit, you can take them out whenever you want to. I typically take mine out like Monday and Tuesday of this week, and it was really beautiful because they're easy to take out and put in. But more typically, you put them in once you start heating your house, and then you take them out in April. But they're easy to take in and out.
I'm curious, You mentioned that, have you ever heard of like any landlord issues with, it sounds like a win-win, right? Like they probably are, but have you ever heard of any like landlord issues or anything like that? Has anybody ever experienced yeah?
I have not heard of any landlord issues. Typically in Burlington, landlords don't pay heat, so they don't have a lot of incentive to participate in our program. So the landlords that we have had participate typically are ones that pay heat, but there's no residual on the window, and from the outside you can't see it, and honestly from the inside you don't even notice they're there. So we have not encountered any problems. There is a payback issue though, right? If you don't know how long you're going to be in your place, for renters, it's a concern, right? Because these are custom fit for your particular situation. You can't really take them with you to your next place. I mean, you'd be lucky if they fit. So the payback period is, on the order of 5 years. So unless you're planning to stay there, or if you're environmentally conscious, if you have noise problems, if it makes sense for your comfort level to put them in, but the economic payback doesn't always work for renters.
With Burlington having a lot of old homes and gas heating, what is the payoff when it comes to carbon monoxide buildup and that kind of stuff?
I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but because it's reducing your heating bills significantly, what that means is that you're using less gas or less heating oil, and that means that you're considerably reducing carbon emissions from your home. As I said, windows are difficult because there are values, even the best ones are very low. So this definitely improves your situation. But as I said, the payback financially, meaning how much money are you saving on your energy bills, is on the order of 5 years.
Like if you have a bad window, as I do, and large, I bet the payback is better.
Yeah, sense? For sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think even new windows, if they're not, the problem with new windows is typically the installation that's done. Sometimes it's not done enormously well, and so that means that you have leakage around the frame. So this really helps that even when you have new windows.
I have a comment. This is fantastic. I wish I knew about this before the winter time.
Yeah.
My place is very poorly insulated, and I asked my landlord for storm windows or additional storm windows. I have some missing, and they said no. So this, I'm definitely interested in this for next year.
Yeah, and our cycle is such that you have to put your order in by the end of September. And for a lot of people, that's early because you're still kind of coming off the high of summer and it's never going to get cold again. And so it's kind of a hard sell at that point. That's why I'm really glad to be here now. This weekend's supposed to be not so great. But it is important to think ahead. And our lead time is pretty significant because of that. So you have to get your order in so we can come out and measure. And then we send all the dimensions to Maine, and they cut everything. They cut all of the wood for us. They send us all the materials and jigs to build things. So each step of the way, there are about 10 steps in the process. It's all broken down, so if when your shift, you're doing one thing for your 4 hours, you don't have to know anything. You don't have to have ever used a power tool. We will teach you how to do whatever you need to do. Very satisfying.
Just really briefly, I got these for my house of like 8 people. They work amazing. We're renters. Our landlord loves us because of it. Yeah. We pay for our own heat, but it reduced our costs. And if you're renters, you're probably low income, so you probably get like a lower rate, so the payoff is faster and worth it. So even if you can't afford the $40, go for it. They're great.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you. Other questions? Great. Well, thank you so much. Charlie, I know, handed out some brochures, and I have some others here, and I'd be happy to talk with anybody afterwards about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Next, we have Teresa, and we are going to have a listening session regarding the Overdose Prevention Center. So take your time.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be back again with you all here in Ward 2. We're starting about 5 minutes early, so Jess Kirby, who's been here with me for all of our visits, will be arriving in about 5 minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. The last time that we were here and talked with you all, we said that we would be back after we had some preliminary data from our community survey. As part of what we're going to do tonight, I'm going to share pretty briefly some of the preliminary data from that community survey, but the purpose of us being here tonight really is to hold a listening session to give you the opportunity to ask questions. Oh, you can't hear me? Too low. Is this better? No? Is this better? Yes? Okay. Let me just start again so that, yes, that's good. I can tell this is louder. I just had shared that Jess Kirby from Vermonters for Criminal Justice Reform is going to be joining me, but we started about 5 minutes early. So we had been here not that long ago, maybe about a month ago. And tonight we're here to share a little bit more about the preliminary results from our community survey that we did, and also to hold a small listening session. So we've got in total about 25 minutes. So when I share the preliminary data, I'm definitely going to go through it fairly quickly so that I can reserve as much time as we can for the listening component of the session. One thing that I wanted to be sure of, because I don't know that everybody has been here before for our presentations, but to just kind of open with letting you know that where we're at with the Overdose Prevention Center, we're still in our early implementation phase and planning, and the service assessment, which is part of the community survey, why we did the community survey, is almost complete. So we'll actually be presenting probably final report on that towards the end of April. So we'll get a little sneak peek today. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of hear what the questions are going to be. They'll also be on the slides of the survey data that we're going to be sharing. Since we only have about 25 minutes, we're going to focus on kind of 3 prompts, but please, if there's something outside of the 3 prompts that you would like to share, this definitely is your time tonight. So we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak, and I'm going to try not to do very much talking tonight. I'm mostly going to do listening. If there are questions that come up, I'm going to track those questions and try not to go too deep into answering those, because I've noticed that if I do that, it kind of takes up the time for the listening component. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So the City of Burlington partnered with PIRE, the Pacific Institute on Research and Education, to help us conduct the community survey and also surveys with people who have living experience, and they are compiling the final service assessment for us. They will also be listening to the recordings of our NPA listening sessions, so they can capture what you all are sharing with us tonight as well. So, okay, I'm actually going to stand up because I will need to use this PowerPoint as my thing. So let's go ahead and pop to the next slide, please. So we're going to talk about preliminary survey results, sort of what the next steps are for evaluation, and then these are the 3 questions that we'll be asking for the listening sessions. And that is, what positive impacts do you hope the OPC will bring to your community? But also, what are your concerns about the OPC coming to Burlington? And then, what would you like to see for ongoing communication with you all as a community as the OPC opens? So, next slide. So as part of the service assessment, the community survey and the surveys with people who have living experience, and just to explain that acronym PWLE is people with living experience, which also means people who are currently using drugs. You'll often hear people with lived experience. That's typically folks that had used in the past. People with living experience are currently using drugs. And so we surveyed those folks through it was administered by PIRE staff directly, verbally, to make that more accessible for more folks. And they did these in-person survey with PWLE at Vermonters for Criminal Justice Reform and at Safe Recovery, Howard Center Safe Recovery Syringe Service Program. The online community survey was anonymous, and we received a little over 1,500 responses from our community members. And we continue to do ongoing tracking of other community engagement activities. So we'll go ahead and next slide. I'm going to go pretty quickly through this, so just so you all know, this is available to you on Civic Clerk. So if you want to go back and go read it in more detail, please feel free to do that. I think some of the big things to highlight here are that of the 49 individuals that were surveyed of the PWLE group, that 84% of those folks reported not having a stable place to live, and 80% were unsheltered. Of the 1,500 respondents for the online survey, 75% of those people were identified as Burlington residents, with 45% also working in Burlington, and 2% being business owners. I did this presentation recently at the Ward 6 group, and one of the gentlemen in the audience kind of highlighted, he said, 2% is pretty low. And then he said, but out of 1,500, that's about 30 business owners who participated. And I hadn't really thought of it that way, so I decided to share that as well. And then 8% of people who took the community survey also identified as persons who currently use drugs or have used drugs in the past. And I just wanted to highlight that as additional to the PWLE folks. Next slide. This slide is information that was collected through the PWLE survey. These folks identified places where they have used drugs in the last 30 days. And so you'll see there are many different places, but many of these places are in public spaces. They are in spaces that are not a person's primary residence, which leads us to why we have an OPC and looking at those risk factors. Next slide. People who might use this center, the OPC, of the 49 respondents, 92% said that they would likely use the OPC once it opens, and 73% would use it most of the time or all of the time. Community perception of the OPC. This question was asked of community members from a scale of 1 to 10. Do you find this OPC, do you think it will be beneficial to the community? The most answered number was 10, being the highest. The median was 7, and the average was 6.3. I recently got a question about the raw data related to this, and we are gathering that. I just want to highlight that this is preliminary data, but we do know that there was a percentage of folks, of course, that answered one, right? And that is what gives us the average number. But in our final, we'll be sure to share more of the details on that. Next slide. Preferred locations. As everyone knows, the location of the OPC is a big question on everybody's minds. And we've, from the get-go, we've said that part of how we'll determine location is going to be based on partly what we learn through the service assessment. And for people who would be most likely to use the services, that's people who use drugs, they said downtown Burlington. This matches with the community survey as well. So amongst both surveys, downtown Burlington was the #1 response, and the Old North End, where we are today, and the Riverside Intervale area were both came in second and third, but they were super close in regards to percentages, and that's across both surveys. We also asked as a follow-up question, what were the most important factors that you would take into consideration when thinking about an optimal location? And accessibility for potential clients came in #1 across both surveys as well there. Followed by proximity to schools and playgrounds. And I just want to be clear that this is that folks want to make sure it is not too close to schools and playgrounds. And then access to other support services and transportation came up very high as well. Next slide. I'm actually going to go pretty quickly through this. This is from the people with living experience survey. They're kind of sharing, how far are they going to be able to travel to get to the OPC, with the majority of people saying, 5 to 15 minutes. They also identified that if there were a free shuttle available to help them get from downtown to wherever the OPC might be located, that they would be very likely, 68%, to use that free shuttle. And also, if there were to be an OPC that was a mobile unit, 75% said that they might consider using that as well. Next slide. Security and safety at the OPC. This is only one measure that was asked in the people with living experience survey. We wanted to just kind of highlight this one particular question that was asked about security guards inside the building versus security guards outside the building, and how would people feel in regards to their own personal safety. And you'll see that 53%, just about half, for both inside or outside, felt that they would feel more safe with a security guard indoors and outdoors, but indoors kind of was a little higher than outside. And then equally, they would feel 19% less safe for both inside or outside, and then kind of neutral, neither more safe nor less safe, coming in pretty close at the 30% mark. I really can't wait to share the rest of this data so that you can see why people who would use the center also want to know that they will feel safe inside the facility. Next slide. We asked in the community survey to rank of these 7 different outcomes. These are positive outcomes that are evidence-based from research across the decades from OPCs around the world. These are some of the top public health outcomes that can come from having an OPC. So we asked people to rate for them what ranked highest importance to them. And so this is kind of the outcomes of the community survey. I'm not surprised to see that preventing overdose and saving lives would be #1. And then you can kind of see reduction of people using in public spaces as #2. And if we go back to the other slide where people who use drugs are saying where do they use, they also identify that they are using in public spaces. So I think this all kind of makes sense, but we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. Services and supports. We asked the question of people who use drugs, what services and supports are most important to you to have at the OPC? And then we asked the community members, what services do you think are most important to have for people who use drugs at the OPC? And this kind of bears that out here. And, you know, people who use drugs, they really want to prioritize medical care being an additional service that's offered at the OPC, along with STI testing, bathrooms and showers, peer support, drug checking, on-site buprenorphine, which is a medication-assisted treatment for opioid use disorder, mental health and drug treatment services. And then coming in last was actually support with basic needs. I was kind of surprised by that. And then our community survey respondents, they came in first with drug treatment on-site, mental health services and referrals, on-site buprenorphine, bathrooms, and peer support were noted among the most important things that community members thought there should be. Next slide. This is the last slide for the data, and this is kind of ongoing community conversations. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this is actually one of the questions as part of our listening session, but this is what folks who responded to the community survey felt were the ways that they'd like to continue to engage with the city and our partner, VCJR. And I'd like to say Jess Kirby is here with us now from Vermonters for Criminal Justice Reform. And so we can go ahead and skip to the next slide. Let's go ahead and skip that as well. And that, there should be another slide. Here it is, discussion questions. What I'd like to do is open up the floor to you all for the listening session component of this. And again, welcoming space, assume best intention, and we want to hear from you, whatever it is that you have to say. But these are some of the prompts, and leave it to you now, folks. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I just am really excited for this to be like built as soon as possible. And thank you for your work. And just putting it anywhere, you know? Just bring it to the people. It's so needed. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a great step in the right direction, and to acknowledge that addiction is a disease, not a moral failure. That's the first step. And the second is, you know, yes, the focus is on the people who are caught in this web. And there are sometimes family members that are struggling. How do they support? What do they not support? How can, you know, is there another layer of support for the family members if there's a localized center that they could go to?
I don't think I can definitely answer that right now, but we do recognize that family members are impacted. And as I'm noting this as something that you've brought up, and as the program continues to evolve, we'll be sure to include this in our notes.
So I have a question for you. So what's the relationship between your facility and the one that we heard about earlier tonight, the Bridges program, which is a recovery program with 16 beds or whatever number of beds there are? And how closely related are you to other facilities in the city of Burlington? Or are you completely isolated and on your own?
So that's a big question, and I appreciate it, Charlie. So I wasn't here for the earlier presentation from Bridges, but we are not connected to that program. The OPC is a city project that we're doing in partnership with Vermonters for Criminal Justice Reform. But one of the big components of our project is to build collaboration and really strong partnerships with our other community-based organizations who are serving the same folks that will be serving, because people are going to run through the continuum. They may be in active use today. They may be looking for recovery services tomorrow. They may be looking for treatment services another time. And so as really a big part of the requirement of the OPC is to build those relationships and implement really collaborative systems and processes for the folks that we're going to be working with.
I'll just add that we already have, their applications. Bridges, they reached out to us early, in their process and made sure that we had applications, and we've already been filling those out for people, including today, and intend to be working with them and collaborating with them. And, we work with other programs in the city every day, city employees, Pathways employees. We'll definitely be working with Bridges, Howard Center, and, no doubt the OPC will be doing that as well.
Hi, Donna Bister. I spent all my working life working in public health and human services, and I can tell you that, this is for Charlie, one-stop shopping sounds like a great thing and everything should be in one place. People don't like it. They want to do the one thing that they need to do today, and to be able to get that in some sort of comfort and not be overwhelmed with every single, somebody trying to help them with every single thing that they might need, because they don't need that right this very minute. So collaboration and cooperation among programs is a great thing, but there's no need to have everything in one place. People think they want it, but they really don't. When you come down to it, if you do it, they don't come.
So around questions, concerns, so if, depending on where it's located, businesses, houses, things that are around it, you talk about a security officer inside or outside, will they do anything to, if you notice on Elmwood Ave, all of the different businesses had to put up signs, no loitering, no drug use, people sitting on their stairs, stuff like that. So will there be safeguards for neighbors so that doesn't happen to their property?
I can say that I think that we can learn from things that have been happening, right? I think that we can do that. And it's going to be really critical and important that we build out the policies and procedures and protocols that will make this project something that is sustainable, and that it works not just for the people who will come to the center, but it also works for our community. Because at the end of the day, we do want this to be a community project that improves Burlington for everyone. And so if that means strategizing, building out plans, and reevaluating on a regular basis, I think we're ready to do that.
I'll just say, one thing different with the Elmwood Pods is that people are living there, and are there 24/7, and that's a little different than, a program that people might spend time at.
People living there can go to their pods, but it's the people, friends, whatever, that
Yeah.
are sitting on other people's
Right,
steps.
totally, I'll just echo what Teresa said, that it's definitely something we'll be thinking about, and it's really important to us to be good neighbors. And, we serve 450 people right now, the same population, and it's extremely important to us to be good neighbors and, to be running a tight ship on those things. And we're going to be, working really hard to address these things with policies and procedures early before it opens.
Hello. I'm very sympathetic to the idea of the OPC, and I don't think drug use and homelessness we can police our way out of, and I'm very excited for what you all are doing. This is just totally my ignorance in this as a field, and the data and all of that. And I'm wondering, is there you mentioned like data that's demonstrated the ways in which OPCs can prevent more deaths, right? Things like that. I'm wondering, is there any data on like, do OPCs reduce drug use in the long term for people who go to OPCs? Like, is there any change in drug use among vulnerable populations when like these are available? Like, is that something that in the long term the OPC might bring to Burlington, is like an overall decline in illicit drug use?
I'll just say, I think so. And that's something that I actually have on my list to ask the people that we're getting technical assistance from in Rhode Island that are running an OPC about their data on that, even just over their first year. But I'll say that we do know, through data that, people who use certain service programs, harm reduction programs, are much more likely to enter treatment than enter on their own or even through other types of programs. So I, as a person with lived experience and just somebody that's been serving this population for a long time, absolutely think that it will help with that. People who are engaged in services and engaged with treatment providers and have people in their corner helping them, supporting them, that can help connect the dots are more likely to enter treatment for sure. And so the people who enter treatment are more likely to make progress on their drug use if they want to. Yeah.
This isn't a follow-up question, but just for the PIRE that you guys mentioned and like for your guys, that's something that like as a community member, I really value. I like the idea of the OPC, but I want it to be a gateway to change for people using.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so can I go? Can I go first? In terms of like the logistics, how many spaces or beds or like chairs will there be, and what's the ratio on staff? And then also, sorry to ask another question, but how will timing work? Like if you have like 10 people who want to partake right now, like where is there like this many allowed in, and what's the flow?
So this is definitely one of those questions that I will put in what we call the parking lot. These are questions that we aren't able to fully answer right now, and we can make a lot of assumptions. We could go with what our TA providers are telling us, a 4-to-1 ratio. But the reality of it is, we in Burlington are our own city and our own program, and we will really need to see as the project unfolds and it becomes a little more tangible, honestly, and we have more conversations with people who use drugs, and we have a better idea of where it's going to be and how it will be set up. These are definitely questions we all have on our mind as well, but at this time, I would be hesitant to answer that question. And I know there are a lot of questions in the room, but we also really want to hear like your thoughts as well about the OPC and your concerns. In addition to your questions, I will track your questions, but I know I won't be able to answer them all this evening. But thank you.
I could say I support the OPC, and I think downtown would be a good spot given the proximity to transportation and what have you. But
sorry. This is my second round. In terms of sustainability, do you have funding from the get-go? And if you do, how long? Because this is not a sprint. This is a long distance, or even call it a marathon. So do you have funding for at least a core staff? And that's key too. And if you do, there's also that 50 states, $50 billion that's going around. I know New Hampshire got $200 million for 5 years. Did Vermont get anything from that?
Well, I want to know more about this 50 states, $50 billion. So I don't know about that. I will say that this project has been funded with legislative intent through Act 178, utilizing the opioid settlement dollars. We have the money that we need to stand this project up and for some operating expenses, but we do recognize we also need to be looking at sustainability, diversifying funding streams, and looking at our private foundations, philanthropy, and other types of funding. We can't always just rely on the opioid settlement dollars.
Hi. I guess I'm really supportive of the OPC. Love it. You know me, Teresa. We've talked a few times. I run the cleanup crew. I guess my question is that I'm always texting. You know Bella Fern, who I'm close with. I'm always texting her to tell me where the OPC is going to be because I act like she has insider information and she doesn't. But I heard recently that the OPC was, instead of looking to rent, because it appeared as if landlords were just completely resistant to wanting to lease out their spaces for this, that the OPC was looking to buy a space. And I was just wondering if there was any updates on that, or like, I know that there's a super rare opportunity that there's a space on Church Street that's for sale right now rather than for lease. It's next to Honey Road. It's where Earth Prime Comics and Quarterstaff Games are right now, but they're going to move to the Pit. So, or what's City Place? Yeah, I still call it the Pit. And I know that probably the Church Street Marketplace Commission would throw an absolute fit, but that is right downtown. So I don't know. I'm just wondering if you've thought about that, or.
I'll try to answer this the best way that I can, Kason. And I think what is really important to highlight here is that in our project proposal, and we always knew that we would have to conduct a real market analysis that would help us to develop a site acquisition plan. When we began this adventure, we had no idea whether we were going to be able to lease, whether we'd have to purchase, whether we'd have to do some other alternative options. We can't say 100% what we're going to do right now, but what we do know is that leasing a space is very, very unlikely. And that comes from the real market analysis that was done. Lots and lots of conversations have been had. We've had a couple of places that we were like, oh, that could be really cool, but we had to do our due diligence. And when places don't meet, there's a very specific list of qualities that a building has to have to meet the standard for operating an OPC. And if a building cannot meet that standard, it is not viable. So we can't even bring it as a possible option. And we are finding that there are many spaces that just don't meet the requirements. So I guess that's a long way of saying that no, we don't have a space, and we actually do not want to have a space on Church Street, just so we're real clear here. Just because Church Street is downtown doesn't mean Church Street is the right place for this project. We do not believe Church Street is the right place for the OPC, for both our business community and for our participants, quite honestly. So, right, so we have a lot more work to do in better understanding what is going to be best for this project for everybody concerned. And I think that we're willing to pivot when we need to. We're willing to look at the plan B and C when we need to. Purchasing a building that is going to be able to grow with the program, obviously that's like gold star. That's what we would like. Is that going to be the reality that we experience? We don't know. So we're going to be willing to see what comes our way and go from there. But thank you, Kason.
Let me throw mine.
Okay, I'm going to take a stab at those questions. Positive impact. I'm hoping that it will save lives and connect people to services when they're ready and meet a need that is not available to those people right now, in that when the time is right for those people, the services will be offered to them. Not before, not too late. Like for the timing piece, I think is what the OPC will meet the best, and that is not here in our community right now. My concerns, I walk all over Burlington all the time, not necessarily after dark, but I guess I want to feel safe walking past the center. And I want every other people with children, older people, feeling safe also walking past the center during the times that it's open. What would I like to see for ongoing communication? I don't know if there's an email list that we could sign up for or something like that. That would work for me. So thank you. I very much support this opening as soon as possible.
I just want to thank you very much for this presentation. It's very helpful. I have a background in substance use research, and I won't claim to understand the ins and outs and the complexity of opening a center in a municipality where everybody has a number of opinions for one way or another about this. So that sort of leads me to my question, which is, what are the barriers that you are facing in order to get this done? And what can community members do to help you sort through those barriers quickly?
Well, when I think about barriers, I actually feel like time has been, a pretty big barrier. Just the time it takes for planning, the time it takes to jump through the many hoops that we have to jump through. I think that has been a pretty significant barrier for us. And as far as what can community members do, coming out to NPAs like this and listening sessions and different events and sharing, we do want to hear concerns as well as support, and we appreciate all the support, but having you all be a part of this conversation is one of the very best things that we could ask from our community members to share, because your voice really does matter. I think that as we get further into implementation, volunteer time and things like that may come up as another way that community members could get involved. But for right now, just being a part of the conversation is really key. Thank you.
I'll say one thing that I think would be really helpful, and it might seem small, but I think it really would be really helpful, is encouraging people in the community that you might interact with that maybe aren't as supportive of the OPC to try to be open-minded and, have a little trust that there are a huge set of guidelines in place. This is being very closely monitored. It is not just being thrown together and stood up, quickly without thought at all. That there's a lot of misinformation out there, that the media doesn't always get it right, that things that are heard on the street aren't always true, that, we care a lot about doing this well, and we care a lot about the people that are most at risk in our community having this program be successful. And, just thinking about challenging stigma and things like that. These are the people that are very likely to use these sites are people that are living in our community, anyway, that are already accessing services here and that are, here around every day, and that people who use drugs are not dangerous, and, most people are people that are in really challenging situations and need some compassion and empathy and, open-mindedness. And I think just encouraging people to just kind of have a little trust and be open-minded about the process, and that maybe this is something that will help Burlington. Even if you're a person that, there are people that are using drugs, this is going to be monitoring people that are using drugs in a different way and letting them be inside instead of out in public. And that alone is something that I think a lot of people, will be happy about. That one thing that it will do. And there's a lot more.
Sorry, that was close. One thing I'm curious to learn more about is I've heard presentations to the NPA before from you guys, and I always really feel like I'd get so much more information than I've had before as someone who has never interacted with a service like this, and I wouldn't be using it. So from that perspective, you just don't know what you don't know. And so I really enjoy the opportunity to learn more. I'm curious to learn more about the mobile considerations. I saw that it was so popular with people, and I've never heard that as part of the plan. So I'm curious if now or in the future you could share more how that would be a part of the program.
That is not something that is determined. That, I think the reason why we do ask the questions is to learn more. To be quite honest with you, there are very, very, very minimal numbers of mobile safe consumption programs across the world, because it isn't really conducive to what the actual goals of the consumption site are. But that's not to say it's not possible. And I've always said, we're not going to leave any stone unturned. We're going to look into things because that's our job, to do our due diligence and to learn more and maybe break some barriers. Who knows? But can I say for sure that Burlington is going to be looking at a mobile program? Absolutely not. We really don't know. We're still so early in the formative stages of this project. But seeing that number, 76%, the next step to that is to go back to people who use drugs and ask more questions, right? So you said yes to that. What do you imagine that looks like? How would that look for you? Have you taken these things into consideration or that? So I think this is very much about information gathering, and for people who would use that program, it's most important for them to have a say in how that might look for them. Thank you.
So is the plan for the center to be open 24/7?
Again, we can't answer scheduling, and I think someone mentioned funding earlier, and staffing a 24/7 program is very difficult, right, financially. And when we look at other programs, both in the U.S. and across the world, there are very few that are 24/7, honestly. But we do have data that we didn't share here from people who would possibly use the program, asking them, what are the hours you would like to see this center be open? And so more to come on that.
And I'm not familiar with how this would work, but is the plan that the people come with their drug to the center as opposed to people outside the building selling them the drug as they go in? Or how does that work?
It is pre-obtained substances. I did a presentation earlier today for some state epidemiologist, and this question was asked about pre-obtained substances. And yes, the folks will not be able to sell or trade substances on site. They will come with their own personal supply, and part of me also recognizes that traveling to and from the center, right? We want to make sure that we're helping to educate participants who are coming about the right amounts to come to the center with, and there'll be drug checking on site as well, so folks will have the opportunity to have their substance tested prior to use by trained staff. I know that we're running, who's my timekeeper? I think that we're running pretty close to time. Are there other folks that would like to speak?
I really like the mention of the drug checking. I think that could be such an incredible service to offer in a place like that, not just for substances being used on the premises, but substances being used elsewhere, and just to have safer drugs for people to use if they're going to use them be really helpful.
I want to thank you, everybody. We love coming to your NPA meetings, and thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts and asking your questions. And I have been tracking these questions, and we'll be doing many more presentations like this. Some will be more we'll be able to answer more questions, hopefully, by the time we come back to see you as this project continues to unfold. But thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both very much. As always, very good to hear from you. I think everyone really enjoyed that. Very well done. Before we do the door prize, I do have one amendment for the record. The Bridges Center will not be low barrier. It's actually a recovery center. So it's sober. It's kind of the next step for people who are at low barrier and doing well. They go to the recovery center. It's sober. And if you do end up relapsing, they connect you with services for that. So just for the record. Okay, and now we have the door prize, which it looks like we will have 2 lucky winners. Tony Banos? Aha! Come pick what do you want? And then we also have, this is my name.
That's a little suspicious. Yeah, very suspicious.
Okay, I actually am going to pick someone else. Shannon. We have a third.
This is a $15 gift card to City Market. These are
Maggie. Oh. And goodbye.